about me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Story time of how my best friend got so weirdly obsessed with me that she even plotted to kill my boyfriend. So at the time, me and this girl, let's just call her Olivia, had only been friends for about 2 years. I mean, we really did everything together. We were with each other 24/7, and I mean, we were pretty good friends. But the only thing about our friendship is she did not like when I had other friends. I mean, she didn't have any other friends herself, but literally she would joke around about strangling my other friends because she didn't like when I gave my attention to anyone else. But honestly, I just thought of it as a joke. And then I started dating this guy, let's just name him Jacob. He was probably the sweetest guy I had ever met, and he was a real simp for me. So we started dating and about 4 or 5 months go by, and he started getting these texts from a random number. And it would always be cringy things like leave her or you die, get away from her, and like stupid cringy threats. Then one night, me and him were just hanging out. Then he gets a text with his exact address saying he had till tonight to leave me or he wouldn't see another day. Then we hear a knock at the door. I'm running out of time, like for part 2.
This is the time my mom faked her death so she didn't have to take care of me and my siblings. Yes, this girl really faked her death. So at the time, I was 5 and my little brother was 3. It started off with my mom saying that she didn't feel well and she couldn't pick me up from school, so the bus would have to take me home. Well, a few months after, she started getting picked up from our house by this black car. She said that car was picking her up because of her so-called doctor's appointments. And she wasn't able to drive herself because she was too sick. Well, one day, when this car came to pick her up, she never came home. Me and my little brother were sitting around for a couple days waiting for her to come home, but she never came home. And we were young, so we didn't do anything. Eventually, my aunt came over to our house and told my little brother and I that our mom had passed away and that she was cremated and they kept the ashes. So our aunt started taking care of. This is part 2 of the time my mom faked her death so she didn't have to take care of me and my siblings. Like I said, my aunt told me that my mom had died and they cremated her and they let her keep the ashes and that she was going to start taking care of us. Me not knowing how long the cremating process actually took at the time since I was so young, I believed her. Until one day I saw my aunt getting picked up by the same black car that my mom used to get picked up by before she died. That's when I decided to check these supposed ashes, and it was actually flour. So one day when my aunt got picked up by this black car, I decided to follow her. I didn't have a car, I was 5 years old, so I had to follow them by walking and hiding behind bushes. I was able to follow them up the street, and once they turned the corner, and there I saw
My future mother-in-law is the absolute worst person I've ever met in my life. I'm 30 years old and my boyfriend is 31 and we've been together for 8 months. He's the sweetest and most caring man I've ever met in my life, but the biggest surprise is when I met his mother. I'm a natural redhead, so when we sat down for dinner, she asked me if my parents had the same color hair. And then she proceeds to ask me, does the carpet match the drapes? I looked over to my boyfriend who seemed equally as shocked, but he didn't say anything. And when I didn't respond back, she said, don't worry, I'll ask my son about it later. She then went on to attack my appearance and said my hair was too curly and I really needed to learn how to run a brush through my hair and think about my appearance more when I'm out with her son. And when I lost my appetite, she told me it was a good thing that I'm watching what I eat because it would be a shame if I got any bigger. This was my first meeting with this woman, and as soon as I got into my car, I burst into tears until I got home. I told my boyfriend I needed some time. He went into apology overload, and this started by sending me flowers to my office every day and leaving me messages. He said he spoke with his mom and promised this would never happen again. With this reassurance, I decided to give it another chance.
Am I the asshole for getting mad about my mom marrying my fiance's dad?
What?
I, 24 female, and my fiance, 24 male, have been together since our sophomore year of college, so around 5 years now. For context, my mom had an affair with a coworker when I was 16, leading to my parents' divorce. She has been single ever since. Sadly, my fiance's mom passed 2 years ago due to cancer, and his dad has been single since. My fiance proposed last year, but our wedding was delayed due to COVID. 3 months ago, in January 2021, we decided it was time to have our families meet for the first time to discuss our upcoming wedding. This went well. This morning, out of the blue, my mom called me and announced that she had eloped. I was shocked as she had not been dating anyone to my knowledge. Upon questioning, it turns out that she and my fiance's dad had been dating in secret since that meeting in January and had married in secret yesterday, making my fiance my stepbrother.
Storytime of how I found out that my 13-year-old sister was sleeping with my teacher and nobody ever did anything about it. So this is the first time that I'm actually telling anybody because I'm finally old enough to realize that all of this was just wrong. So at the time, my sister was in 8th grade and I was in 6th grade. So my sister claimed that she needed extra help in history, and I guess my mom trusted him because after school he would take me and my sister to his house and then like help my sister. And he would always say he had to get ready before he tutored her because they would like go in the room with the door shut. But he said that was the only way for her to learn best. And while we were waiting for him to get ready, me and my sister would play this literal funnest and like most satisfying game ever. It's where you grow little plant dudes, and me and her literally got so addicted to it. The link to that is also going to be in my bio. And then he would start playing the game with her, trying to get on her good side. And then they make me wait in the living room for about an hour while they study. And every day she would come out saying, "Oh my god, I learned so much today." I mean, she did learn something. Anyways, I'm running out of time like for part 2. Part 2 of how I caught my 13-year-old sister sleeping with her teacher. So continuing on with the story, I was just waiting outside the room until they got done. And one day my mom called me and said that it was an emergency and she had to pick us up early. So I knocked on the door really lightly and then I opened the door. And I'm surprised it wasn't locked. And I opened the door and I see my 13-year-old sister and her 42-year-old teacher just getting it on. I mean, I ain't no snitch, so I didn't say nothing. At the time, I was 11 years old in 6th grade and I high-fived her. Then the teacher bribed me with $500 to not say anything. Again, I was in 6th grade at the time, so my parents would definitely wonder where I got the money from. So the teacher told me that if I let them keep doing their thing, he'll make this fake raffle and say that I won it. Because me and my sister were so close, I never snitched on her. And this is the first time I'm telling the story. Me and my sister don't talk anymore. So if you're that teacher that gave me $500 to keep effing my older sister, you are probably one of the most disgusting people that I've ever met. And if this story gets out there, sorry for saying this, but I need to get this out there. John Wilson, you deserve to rot in jail.
Story time about how I catfished my boyfriend. I'd been dating my boyfriend Ben for around a year. We were really happy and he even moved in with me in my apartment. Everything was going great and I thought he could be the one. However, one day my friend Lacey sent me a screenshot of my boyfriend on a dating app. At first, I was hoping that maybe it was an old account. I didn't want to jump to conclusions if it was from before we started dating. The pictures that he had on the account didn't seem to be recent ones. I wanted to ask him about it and I almost did, but I had to be sure that he wasn't trying to play me. I called my friend Lacey and told her to super like him on the app. She's really pretty and they've never met, so I knew that he would match with her if he was still active on the app. After a few days, nothing happened. He hadn't matched or messaged her. I was so relieved that I even bought him a new jersey I knew he'd been wanting. I felt dumb even questioning his loyalty until I got an update from Lacey a few days later. He had matched with her on the dating app and messaged her. I was so mad I was seeing red. I was so close to going into the next room and going off on him, but I decided that I wanted to get back at him in a different way. I called Lacey and explained to her that I wanted to set him up and asked for her login information on the app, which she gave me. This is when things got interesting.
Story time about how my boyfriend caught me with my sugar daddy. Quick disclaimer, this is not my story time and my eyes are red because I got sunscreen in them. So my boyfriend and I have been together for almost 4 years. The relationship itself is good, but the only problem is that he doesn't really pay for anything. I pay for the bills, almost all of the rent, and I even pay when we go on dates. I've always had a good job and he's always had like mediocre jobs here and there. I've always told him that I want him to get a better job and he says no because he's comfortable at the job that he's at. Meanwhile, I'm busting my butt and paying for everything. The only things that he pays for are when he goes out to eat by himself or if he's hanging out with his friends, or sometimes here and there he'll buy groceries. But it's really rare. So 2 years ago, I decided to find myself a sugar daddy. Number 1, I want the money, and number 2, I just want to feel taken care of. So I went through a few sugar daddies and I didn't tell my boyfriend that I was actually doing this. Finally, I found myself the perfect sugar daddy. He gives me $5,000 a month and takes me out shopping whenever I want. We usually go out to fancy dinners, movies, things like that. Whenever I'm with my sugar daddy, I tell my boyfriend that I'm hanging out with friends. I was out with my sugar daddy one night and my boyfriend walks into the restaurant. Part 2 is up. My boyfriend threatened me and told me that if I didn't share the money, he would tell my sugar daddy that I had a boyfriend. I believed him. I went back to my sugar daddy's table and we basically had dinner with my boyfriend sitting across from us having dinner with his friends. The whole time I was trying to figure out how I would break up with my boyfriend without having to share the money that my sugar daddy gave me. I told my sugar daddy that I wasn't feeling well. He called me an Uber to take me back to my apartment. I got to my apartment and I started packing my stuff. Like, I knew my boyfriend was bad for making me pay for everything, but I didn't know he was that bad. Freaking threatened me. Then he starts calling my phone, sends a text message and it says, "I'm gonna be home in 5 minutes." So I gathered all my things, ran downstairs and waited behind the building for the Uber. And my boyfriend sees me, comes up to me and rips my bag away from me. Tried to get my phone, but I took it away from him. And he said that I had to share the money that my sugar daddy gave me. Finally, the Uber arrives and I jump in. My boyfriend actually pulled me by my hair to try to get me out of the car. I've blocked him and haven't spoken to him since, and I'm still with my sugar daddy. Story time about how I got arrested for stalking my celebrity crush. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. When I was 15, I saw my celebrity crush for the first time in a movie. After that, I pretty much went to all of his movie premieres and events. I was able to take a picture with him and even got his signature. To say that I was obsessed was an understatement. Now, here's where the problem began. He started dating this woman, aka another celebrity, and I pretty much lost it after that. At the time, I was living with my mother and she couldn't help but notice the change in me. I started staying out pretty late, mostly because I was out in the city looking for him. I knew all of his hangout spots because the paparazzi always caught him there. So I basically would hang out everywhere he would. I followed him to his house, I followed him to the gym, and I followed him to the grocery store, pretty much everywhere. I decided to sign up to his gym, and I started talking to him, and he started talking to me, and he asked me out on a date. Part 2 is up. Story time about how I caught my dad doing the dirty with my best friend. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. My mom and dad have been married for 30 years. My dad started modeling when he was really young and he still does it to this day. Every single time that I would bring a friend over to my house, they would always talk about how cute my dad is. It never annoyed me at all because I was so proud of my dad, but it really bothered my mom. So out of respect for my mom, I would just tell my friends not to say anything. My mom is definitely the jealous type. My best friend and I have known each other for about 3 years. She was the new girl at school and we became friends, and ever since then we've been inseparable. She always comes over to my house, we have sleepovers, and my family really likes her. My mom even takes her shopping with us and buys her tons of stuff. She always comes with us to get manicures and pedicures and facials as well. A few years ago, my mom told me that my dad was unfaithful to her and it really upset me. Basically, my mom couldn't trust him at all. And ever since then, I've kept an eye on him as well. One day I came home early from work. I see my best friend sitting on the couch with my dad. She was kissing his neck. When they saw me, they got up from the couch. Part 2. I see my best friend kissing my dad on the neck, and when they both saw me, they jumped off the couch right away. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. My best friend said, "Oh, you're finally home." And my dad literally just walked toward the kitchen like nothing had happened. My best friend walks toward me to give me a hug, but I stop her straight in her tracks. I asked her why she was kissing my dad's neck. She laughs and said, "Of course I wasn't." And then I said, "I just saw it." And she said that she was just thanking him for all the stuff my mom and dad do for her. Right, I was not buying it. My dad didn't even look me in the eyes after that. I decided not to question her any further, but I was really angry with my best friend. After that, I was totally convinced that there was something going on between them. So I decided to set a trap. I told my mom and dad I would be at work all day and that I would be home really late. And I told my best friend the same thing and that I wouldn't be able to hang out with her. I knew that my mom would be at work all day, which meant that my dad had the house all to himself. I said bye to my dad, but I sneaked back into the house and hid in my room all day. Then I started hearing voices. It sounded just like my best friend. I opened my dad's bedroom door and there they are on the bed doing the dirty. Disgusting. Part 3 is up. I walk in on my dad and my best friend doing the dirty. They had no clothes on and they were doing it in my mom's bed. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. Because I am so intelligent, I recorded the whole thing on my phone. My father had the audacity to yell at me and tell me to get out of the room. I said, "No way." Best friend starts dressing herself frantically, begging me for forgiveness. Then my dad tells her to keep her mouth shut. Well, I don't hesitate for 1 second and I send my mom the video that I just recorded. My dad pulls the phone away from me and throws it at the wall. Then he starts trying to negotiate with me. He said, "If you don't tell your mom, I will never do this again, I promise." I told my best friend to go downstairs and wait for me on the couch. My dad starts putting on his clothes and by the time he's done, my mom is home. Of course, my mom went off on my best friend telling her how ungrateful she was. And she asked my dad for a divorce. A few days later, I get a message from another friend. She tells me that she also did that with my dad. Since then, 4 other women have told me the same thing. They all go to college with me, so none of them are underage, thank God. My dad is begging my mom back, but she doesn't know what to do. We're both just in shock.